Well guys, welcome to another video for anatomy and physiology. In this video, we're taking a look at the pectoralis major, or more specifically, the pectoralis tear. Now, as we get into this particular injury, keep in mind that this is a very significant injury requiring surgery pretty much immediately. As soon as you realize it happens, it's pretty obvious. You're going to know. As you'll see in a little bit, I'll show a video of an actual pectoral tear, like as it happens, and you can see the muscle just completely retract towards the sternum. So, as I mentioned, it's a pretty significant injury. It happens most often with bodybuilders because of the amount of force that they apply to that particular muscle. Now, there's a specific kind of force that we'll get into in just a second, but like I mentioned before, let's look at the basic anatomy. So this is the pectoralis major, and if you look at the fibers, the direction that the fibers run, you can see that it has multiple functions, or at least it's multi-directional. And you see the massive belly in the center, the chest of the pectoral muscle, and then it converges and it kind of twists and it inserts itself here on the humerus. Okay, and its points of origins are sternum in the chest area, right? But it also attaches to some of the ribs, like your fourth rib, your fifth, sixth, or your external obliques, and the sixth rib at the most inferior point. But it also attaches to the clavicle. Okay, so it's not really as well known to attach to that point. Now, there's three major areas where the pectoral muscle can tear. One is at the sternum, okay, the sternum and the clavicle, so it can detach from there. That doesn't happen as often. More commonly also is the belly, like the thickest part of the pectoral muscle, and also the at the point of insertion, the point of attachment to the humerus. This is where a lot of injuries happen to bodybuilders and football players as well. So let's dive into the injury itself. As I mentioned, the pectoralis tear. Now, bodybuilders aren't the only ones that experience this. There's been some pretty prominent NFL football players that have experienced this injury as well, like J.J. Watt, for example. If you look at the video of J.J. Watt's injury, you can see him extend his arm. His arm is extended back, trying to get away from an offensive lineman. And you got to consider that NFL offensive linemen are just as big as J.J. Watt. You know, you're talking about 6'5", 300 plus pound individuals who each of them are working to push the other against their will. So there's a lot of force at work in these movements. Ray Lewis, a linebacker from the Baltimore Ravens. So and with his injury, you can see him kind of extend out to try to tackle somebody, and his arm gets pulled back, and you know that's pretty much when the tear happens. So as I mentioned, there's three areas. You have the medial tear that is where the point of attachment is to the manubrium, the sternum, and then you have the belly, and then the insertion point of the humerus. Okay, so the tear typically happens at what we call during the eccentric contraction. Okay, so essentially what this is that this is a contraction when the muscle is elongated. We know that when a muscle contracts, here, let me show you the movement. So here, for example, when you're looking at the movement, as I was just mentioning, you'll see that it's pulling the shoulder in, it's adducting the shoulder, adding, it's adding to it, it's pulling it towards the medial line of the body. And as you can see here, the direction of the fibers, this is one direction in which the arm is pulled when the belly is contracted. So this is the normal contraction when the muscle is shortened, right? And then this is the eccentric contraction when the muscle is being elongated. So this is not the strongest point right here, the eccentric contraction. That's not the strongest point, or that's not the strongest or the most amount of force where the pectoralis major is able to apply. This is actually this right here where the contraction is happening, where the muscle belly is shortened. That's the strongest amount. That's where the muscle is allowed to apply the most force. So when you elongate it like it is right here, eccentrically, and then you're still applying a lot of force, that is where typically these muscles tear. Let me hide this one. Let me hide the deltoid here. Okay, that's the middle deltoid head. So you can see here at the point of attachment for the pectoralis major, this is where it'll tear. This is where I'll show you a video of the bodybuilder who was lifting heavy weights. He was maxing out, and his muscle tore right here, and then you can see the muscle just contract. It evulses all the way back into the medial chest. Negative aspect of the lift. Now, and that's typically where it tears. Now, he does not actually tear it. Let's see, but coming up next, right here. Now, pay attention. So he's going down. That's the negative. Look at the left or the right pectoral, and you can see it contract. You can see it basically tear at that point, and it just evulses and goes to the medial line, towards the body, towards the sternum. And it's pretty gruesome. It's terrible. But one of the things to consider is that this eccentric load, when you're loading at max at its max, you have to be careful, because if you're not used to loading your pectoral muscle that way, especially eccentrically, then you're at a high risk of having a muscle tear. And unfortunately he was in this instance. So in any case, that's the pectoralis major, that's the pectoral tear. I hope you guys learned something new, and catch you on the next one.